feel very blessed, honored, fortunate that a lot of the knowledge I've been able to, however I've been imparted it, I've received it and I curate it, I guess, you know. There's times that you can share it and there's times that you cannot. Westport, we're right on the river. Westport's a river culture community. I mean, and it goes out to the ocean, so you got a lot of connections here over many generations as well. This is the second time we've worked in this area. First time was building a We2, so we already focused on the land, and now it's time to focus on the water. And this is, again, a great way to do that.
This was an interesting collaboration. It sort of evolved over time. It started out when we were approached by someone who had gone to the Round the Bend farm in Dartmouth where they had a powwow last fall. And she was really excited about the whole collaboration there where they built a We2. And she thought it would be really interesting to demonstrate another tradition from the tribe, which was a Mishoon burn, which is a canoe. We got together first with the Land Trust and the Wampanoag Experience and ourselves and started exploring what that might look like. The overarching goal was to kind of put Westport in the context of boat building as a very ancient art that had happened long before whaling ships. This was the summer grounds for the Wampanoag tribe, and they would camp here and fish in the river and burn their canoes. So we wanted to kind of make that history live. We're really lucky that someone from the Wampanoag Experience had a link to a family foundation that was very interested in helping support this. The Sheehan family, which owns a business called El Knife Incorporated. And we also talked to the local cultural council, who were very excited to give support for this project. When the tribe first came down, the proposal had been it be in residence at the Westport Woods, which is a recently acquired property of the Land Trust. But they didn't feel that that was really a kind of a perfect setting. So we brought them over to the town farm, which is a property owned by the town, but administered by the trustees of reservation. And that's where that third partner came in, because they were asked to be the host for the residency.
One of the Westport Land Conservation Trust's primary goals is to connect the land to people and people to the land. And in that way, this educational piece of igniting interest in the land was really how we felt that we connected with the Wampanoag Experience's educational goals. We really feel like the Mishoon is an embodiment of how the land and the water come together. Our primary goals are to engage our community with the land itself, and the Mishoon seemed like just an ideal way of doing that. And Town Farm is iconic in our community. The Land Trust actively works to educate our membership and our community in a broad sense about the need to preserve open space, to preserve habitat, those water resources, the working farmland that if you come here, you see it. It looks like it did 200 years ago with the stone walls and the cows. And that takes work. It takes work to educate and to preserve that land. And the joining of the Wampanoag educational goals and our goals, I think, is really powerful. To use our land resources in a way that educates and promotes future generations of people who care about the land is such an incredibly powerful goal.
When they came to me with this opportunity, I realized, gotta do what's right. You know, like this is an opportunity, and as much as it could be for myself, this is a great opportunity for my people, for my tribe, for my region. First and foremost, get my people together. This is an opportunity that will impact all of my people and hopefully future generations. So I had to get input. I don't like being the only representative, especially if I don't have to be. In a case like this, I can clearly get input from other people. I kind of needed it, and they were open to it. I did get the Herring Pond, which was the closest Wampanoag community geographically to the actual parcel that they were trying to donate back to the people, to the tribe. And then, of course, I am a Mashpee Wampanoag. How is that going to look if I don't include, obviously, my own Mashpee people in the conversation? But I think that if Mashpee and Herring Pond work together without a Quina, that could jeopardize the peace within our nation, because those three tribes is what we acknowledge as Wampanoags within our nation. Those are the 3 communities we know have remained and been intact and still are.
I came to kind of co-found the Wampanoag Experience with Annawon Weeden after working with him on a project as a sustainability consultant and educator. I'm extremely interested in practices and belief systems of the indigenous peoples. Since I was at the time spending a lot of time in Westport at a house I was renting there, and I was struck by, in Westport, the number of place names that are in the Wampanoag language that are used to this day. Sakonnet, Weedamoo, Nokachoke, which is the name of the river behind us, Quahog. The Wampanoag culture and language is infused into the community here. The burning of this Mishoon in Westport is a collaboration of the Wampanoag Experience and a desire to raise awareness of Wampanoag culture and the arts. And from the non-natives' perspective, it was an opportunity to highlight many of the traditions that are near and dear to my heart as an environmental sustainability educator. It represents to me a fundamental level of respect that would benefit non-natives to take note of.
With this canoe, we're going to bring it down to the community celebration, the River Day Festival that takes place in this community. They seem very happy to be able to include our culture this year. Peter took that opportunity to work with me as I guess, introductory, but not the last chance we would work together. So he created a few more since then, and we've kind of coined it as this phrase, Wampanoag Experience, because again, you got to just experience our culture, what have you. I guess I'm happy for all of us, but definitely happy for the land.
I just want to share a minute for folks to understand how important it is to highlight those who we've been taught by. And I know my teacher who taught me how to burn my first boat out was Darius Coombs, Mashpee Wampanoag, and I've spent time with Hartman Dietz and also Annawon Weeden. And so it's really important that we acknowledge people who have allowed you to sit next to them and learn. And so understand that I had to step into my sister community to learn this skill because of the ways that assimilation and colonization has taken part in our lands. And so vice versa, I've also gone into their territory and I teach how to brain tan deer skins and things like that. And so I'd come down and share that with some of their youth in their summer camps. And so I'm the executive director of No Loose Braids, which is a nonprofit that focuses on cultural revitalization, preservation, land stewardship. And so this work right here is not something that we just do as a hobby, for fun. This is who we are. And so this is what we've dedicated our lives to. And so, yeah, people like Annawon and Darius and Hartman are people that I really look up to and hope that later on in my journey, I would be the same for the youth behind me.
To teach another generation these skills is absolutely critical to those skills' survival. Without the next generation having an opportunity to learn from the masters and the people who've come before them, you have to reinvent the wheel. And when you get to do them again and again and again, you start to create a real skill and a refinement in the creation process, whether it's the bark-covered houses, the Mishoons, or the tools that we used on a daily basis to make life workable. I looked at the historic record of Ed Winslow, and he recounted a man felling a tree and burning out a log in 11 days. And I remember saying to Darius, how come it takes us months? Well, we want an exhibit for everybody to see. I was like, well, we should try it. We should try it this way. And he was all excited about it and jumped on the opportunity of let's do it the old way. And we learned so much from doing it that way. We learned about how you've got dominant wind is going to affect the walls, how you end up with the smooth bottom. The bed of coals is a whole different thing. It's like it accelerates suddenly after 8 or 10 hours of burning. It's burning much faster, consuming more wood. And if we have to step away from the apprenticeship model and people have to simply read about and research, and you just lose the refinement, you use the detail, you lose that knowledge that improves from generation to generation. And Annawon, who was working on this project, was also, somebody who had a number of years and more experience on me. I could always learn from him as well. And now, together we've been able to work on projects with Andre, and he's able to really refine his skill. And then, the next generation, like his nephews and Annawon's sons and my kids, wow, it's you just see improvements upon improvements.
What's important to find is a straight log. We're looking that there's not a lot of branches coming out of the log. The clearer the better, so we can get that bark off nicely, and so that we know that as we're burning it out, those knots don't seep out any sap or anything like that. It just makes for an easier process. What we got here is a 16-foot white pine tree. It's fresh. It's got a bit more shaping. We're on day 2 here, a little bit over 30 hours, getting close to 40 hours of work on it. What we got going on here is a balancing act, a dance between the wind, the fire, and water. And so in that creates a strategic process and skill in doing that. There's a lot of variables, from rain to wind to smoke being in your face, dancing around the log. And what's important is that you get that tree to get lit, and you're not always just burning that wood, you're burning the log down. And so to do that, you actually don't want flames, you want coals. And so it takes time to be able to get a good bed of coals to be able to burn that tree down. Canoe came from Mishoon, because I know Mishoon is actually the full name of it. Mishoon got abbreviated. So Mishoon and Chamush, where you paddle your boat. A chamush is a paddle. Mishoon is our boat.
These were the boats that could and still do connect us all. So if we still have trees like this, because these trees are getting harder to find. You can't really find a tree big enough to do this. You can't find them big enough to peel the bark. So this whole way of life is getting encroached upon as we continue these ways. If nobody appreciated this, I don't know how much I could really. I think a lot of it is me trying to get people to appreciate, because nobody did for thousands of years. If anything, suppressed it and tried to do away with it. Corporations get away with what they do because nature has no representation in court. Nature has no voice, clearly can't speak this language, doesn't know how to articulate a pen. We don't protect that, you're not protecting yourself. You're leaving yourself vulnerable, let alone your children.
Right now in our country, we are in a very fractured time. People are very suspicious of one another. They are very judgmental. People don't really share across cultural and community differences, certainly not across political differences. And one of the things that I think was really important about this was bringing people together to learn about a very much ignored part of our history. All of these spots that we're standing in were once the home and the campground and the hunting ground and the fishing ground of the Wampanoag tribe. And we immigrants came to this country and didn't really honor those realities. And I think this was a chance for sort of some cultural healing and some cultural recognition.
I can't articulate how special it is to be invited and be so welcomed to learn and to witness the burning of this canoe in a traditional way, in a way that has not happened for years and years and years, hundreds of years on this land. The context of this burn for me is that it's also a reunion with a friend I haven't seen for 6 years. And so that in itself, coupled with the natural environment and the significance of this very communal activity that is the burning and the creation of this canoe, has been hugely centering and hugely connection-based in a way that I haven't felt quite in a long time. Canoe you can really see best at night when it's the coals flickering and there's no other distractions and the smoke is billowing up into the night sky. It's a very humbling thing, and it really does reconnect you with where everything comes from. That was once a pine tree. The place of this event is so much more than the physical location. It's really a spirit and a sense of community that's been cultivated by every member of this event. And I only wish I could spend more time witnessing this ongoing process of the Mishoon.
I think the most important thing for me was to see this piece of property in particular being used, to see it being really lived on and just experienced in that way, I think was really incredible. When I was down here during the burn and I just talked to people to see how they were doing, if they were enjoying it, I heard from a number of people who had come here before because, again, this is a piece of property that is very well known in the town, but maybe hadn't been here for a while or had been here too often. During the pandemic, had come here to walk, as a lot of people did. And the amazing thing about the burn was that it reinvigorated people's imagination and reconnected them, even if they were used to being in this particular location. I heard over and over again how much it changed their perspective. The joy of people seeing the Mishoon come up at the head landing, to see the completion in that way, I think was really remarkable.
We're here on the dry land and we're dealing with this Mishoon, and the main areas where land was fought over during King Philip's War, our jurisdiction was eliminated and our people enslaved, pushed out and forced to relocate to other areas. And this has been the case since the 1670s. And it's an important thing to this land, but it's also an important thing to the river here. To be able to connect not only with the ground, but the waterways themselves is a huge part of these canoes. And to be able to be out and to see the life of the herring, to see the life of the snapping turtles, the osprey and the other things that rely on this river for life is a really important way to understand what it is that has value and what it is that we need to protect and care for. It's hard to care for something when it's just an abstract out there. It's here. It's not abstract. And when you can really be in touch with it like that, I think you can understand the value of it and what's truly valuable and what's all an illusion, which I think we get caught up in chasing.
Assimilation is the key word that comes to mind when I think of what's happened here on our lands. Commodities. Our people always had a relationship to the land in a way that was a relative. And society in today's day and age sees these relatives that are in the forest as a commodity. And so it's important to, while we're doing this work, working on this tree, taking care of this pine here, understanding that it gave its life, see, we're respecting it, and all good things have to happen around this work when we're doing this work because this tree gave its life. And so it's important to acknowledge that the reason while we're doing this work, we need to walk in a good way, mainly because how about if somebody in your family crosses over and you're at that funeral? How do you act and behave in that place compared to any other place that you're at? That's how we're supposed to act and behave when we're through the forest and through our everyday walk in life, so especially when we're dealing with a relative like this. And so that's what's been stripped from our viewpoints as Indigenous folks here through assimilation. And so it's important that we focus our viewpoints on such important topics.
Canoe culture has, I would assume, continued. Things like, if you could see the wampum here, for example, that had not continued. Language, there's a lot of things that went dormant during many periods of colonization, and us being first wave colonization, obviously we've been impacted the hardest, the longest. Your name is usually your identity if you break it down into a translation. I'm Great Water people, Mashpee, Great Water. As I mentioned, we have Nipmucs here. They are freshwater people. Word, Massachusetts, Great Barren Hill place. These boats allow us to interact with those environments, let alone interact with one another. And obviously interact with the greater community as well. So literally this has opened the door for the entire community. This is an interaction, this is a community building event. My dad, fortunately, was able to tell me with his own mouth, with his own breath and his own words before he passed. And it was early enough before he passed. He said, son, I'm really glad and comfortable, I think was the word he used, that I can see the wampum is here now and that it has been revived and it will remain. And he said something along the line, if Creator was to take me today, I can go to my grave knowing I'm proud to see that that's come back. So again, I have to do this. If I can learn it, if I can be shown it, even if I can regain it myself through my own research, it's knowledge that should be there and should be for everybody. I can honestly say that even though I've done canoes a good portion of my life, I've never really done them this way, and I haven't been able to really bring our communities together in this way. So I just hope to see it continue growing.
Dark